Daichi,
the first
yes,
seed.
from Daichi to advance into the top cut. Another thing to note as well, for Kaiwen, has won the World Championships in a younger age division. Not in Masters, but that would be an accomplishment of its own. Winning the World Championships twice is an accomplishment very few people can boast. As we get into the prize cards, quick shooting not as relevant in this matchup. You're really looking for those Jolteon pieces in the prizes. I know for Daichi, we saw 2 Jolteon earlier in the prize cards in that top 8 match, but none in there here for Ryota. As we're getting underway for things, Kaiwen's going to kick things off. And wow, this hand is so poor here for Kaiwen. Just the Sobble has Drizzile for next turn, but no way to find any of the 4 Battle VIP Pass, no way to dig further with Greninja, and no Palkia V down on the first turn of the game.
Losing out on that window of opportunity to have that explosive start means that you have even less of a chance to get out ahead before the Jolteon memory capsule completely shuts this deck down.
Yeah.
Going for the early Professor's Research.
Yeah, that got rid of a lot of resources there. A capture energy, got rid of a memory capsule. Ryota doesn't have deck information. If another one was prized, there would be no way to turn Jolteon on at this point, but this hand is looking a lot better. It looks like has an Ultra Ball, can get rid of some pieces, can get down a double Turbo Energy for turn, and has a Crobat V to fill the hand back up. After a pretty tough discard, Ryota's going to be able to bounce back pretty nicely here on the first turn.
We usually see players agonize over making those sorts of plays, but Ryota knows I have to just cut my losses. I know I need to get into the driver's seat of this match. I'm naturally favored. This is the matchup I built the deck for. I just need to execute, and using the Professor's Research to find those pieces is the first step in advancing into this bracket.
Yeah, Ultra Ball going to pitch a few pieces away. I'm sure this will find the Arceus V, the centerpiece that allows everything to happen. It allows you to accelerate your Pikachu, your flying Pikachu VMAX. It allows you to get the pieces to get the Jolteon with the Awakening ability to shut off the Water type abilities. And that is the key card in this matchup. This deck designed and played throughout this tournament because of the expected high counts of Palkia and Inteleon engines. Kaiwen's deck is meant to utilize Irida in combination with the Drizziles to find these specific pieces. But Irida by itself is a pretty lackluster supporter. It pretty much just grabs you an item. In a lot of the cases, some of these items like Cross Switcher need to be played in multiple counts, and your deck really does not function at all, especially when you are ability locked and you're facing down a Pokemon that can one-hit KO your Palkia V-Stars.
If that all comes to fruition, we're going to see the same thing that happened earlier in the bracket. Kaiwen just getting stonewalled out of the game. Ryota still trying to put the pieces together to get that foundation, has the Arceus, but Kaiwen is hoping that Ryota's turn here is not too strong to keep that window open, to keep that opportunity open to once again explode into this game and try to get that early advantage. Galarian Moltres V kind of stranded in the active right now. Maybe Kaiwen can grab a couple early prize cards off of it if it remains there.
Yeah, it gets everything else. The Crobat, this is going to be big cards. Do we see the switch? We do see the switch. That's a huge grab. The Moltres can move out of the active spot, can go into this Arceus V, and just Ryota can put even more pressure on the gas pedal and power up this benched flying Pikachu and even this active Arceus. Oh, you hate to see that if you're Kai when you've already off to a poor start and your opponent has pretty much everything they want to start the game off.
That one liability that Kaiwen was hoping to take advantage of being taken away thanks to this clutch switch and the Eevee on the bench, ready to set up the Jolteon.
Yeah, the Eevee is a huge grab as well. That threatens the Jolteon turn 2 as well. Just needs to Starbirth at this point because the energy attachment is already there. Gonna find a whole rainbow of energy at this point. Darkness, Lightning, and Fighting. And those are gonna go on to the 3 different Pokemon. Actually, all onto the Flying Pikachu. So really signals that Ryota's got a pretty strong hand for the following turn.
The Flying Pikachu is set up. The Arceus is set up. The Eevee is waiting in the wings, ready to go. Ryota's one turn away from completely locking down this game. This top deck for Kaiwen is not going to do it. Was that just a cross switcher piece?
Yeah, it does have Drizzile, so at minimum can utilize Irida, but at that point, that's the last Shaded Dealings you're most likely going to have into this game. It's so easy for this deck to find the pieces to get to Jolteon, especially if the double turbo energy is already found. All that's needed is a basic energy and an Arceus V-Star, and you can just grab those 2 specific pieces off of the Starburst. So almost certain we'll see Irida get grabbed, but the real question is, again, there's positives, negatives to playing Kaiwen's list. We've seen a lot of people play 1 copy of Battle VIP Pass or 4. No really in-between amounts, but Kaiwin's playing 4 Battle VIP Pass, and those cards can no longer be played. So essentially, Kaiwin is playing with a 56-card deck, but it's worse than that because you can still draw into the Battle VIP Passes, which cannot be played.
Right, we've seen, especially with the Mew VMAX, they have a lot of ways to turn the VIP passes into fodder for those discards to thin down the hand for Genesect. But when it comes to Palkia, they're much more all in on that feast or famine with the Battle VIP Pass. They're expired at this point, and we're just seeing the Irida trying to claw back into this game.
Yeah, this seems like a
shaking
pretty
his
standard
head.
grab.
He's so disappointed here in the first game. We know this is going to be an uphill battle, but the fact that Kaiwin had such a weak start to put insult to injury, you hate to see it. And it looks like, wait.
No, the quick ball's going to get played.
Yeah.
He's going to go back into the deck with this.
He's
There
going
is
back in.
Yeah, there is an evolution incense for the follow-up, but the way things are looking, Kaiwin understands that, listen, the odds of my Inteleon engine being shut off for the rest of the game, it's so high that it's just worth it to dig through the deck a little bit more with Greninja to see a few extra cards. But even if you could pick any 2 specific cards out of the deck to draw here off the Concealed Cards ability, there's not much that's really going to buy Kaiwin out of this position, especially when you miss the ability to apply tons of pressure with Moonlight Shuriken on turn 2. That's really what Kaiwin was looking to do, take care of the Eevee. There's no way for Ryota to protect this Eevee, no mana fee, no ability to stop bench damage from being dealt. And this big opening means that it's pretty much on Ryota. If the Jolteon gets established at this point, Kaiwin's pretty much locked out of the game.
Consistently, we've seen from this Arceus Flying Pikachu list, it gets into this dominant position very early, and then the Starbirth just becomes that, now I can find the perfect 2 cards I need to completely seal the deal on the game, and that is also what Ryota is threatening here, just with the simple evolution to the Arceus V-Star.
Yeah, there's another Concealed Cards. The Level Ball can find another piece out of the deck at minimum, but again,
without the threat of the Palkia evolution, now without a threat of Star Portal, as you said, Ethan, no Shuriken being threatened as well. Kaiwin is just 1 step behind, and in this matchup that's already so terrible for you, that's all it's going to take for this game 1 to go very easily into Ryota's hands.
Yeah, these are going to have to be a terrible 2 cards here for Ryota for something on this lines of being able to not establish the lock. Just a simple way to get Arceus V-Star out even most likely means the cards will be there. Come a research and gambling off of finding a basic energy. You have to feel for Kaiwin at this point because you had a potential. This matchup is in no way favored. You have to deal with the Jolteon lock. You have to deal with weakness on a 3-prize Pokemon that you can't return 1-hit knockout. But you do have options. Greninja provides you options. Palkia V-Star with early aggression and Crosswishers provides you options, but that's all thanks to Palkia V-Star, all of that. And if you can't get a Palkia down to get set up on the following turn, you're just left in a worse position, and sometimes you just have no way out.
Yeah, all we're doing is just listing the many ways that Ryota is advantaged, and even if you were to take away 1 or 2 of those points, the dominant position here with the Arceus V in the active spot still remains. Does manage to assemble the cross switch. You're going to try to re-strand this Galarian Moltres V and has to pass. Ryota now about to unlock the full power of this list. The Jolteon, the Flying Pikachu VMAX. Professor's research for a fresh 7 just wants to find the memory capsule in the Arceus V-Star.
Yeah, those were almost a perfect 3 cards. Able to play the research down, get both evolution pieces that were needed. And there's only 1 copy of Switch. The way things are going to work at this point is because that Moltres is stranded in the active, no ability to Dire Flame Wings and attach those energies in the discard pile. Ryota's going to have to manually search out something like Double Turbo, but look at that. It's already in hand, which means pretty much guaranteed the memory capsule can come down. We could even see a Max Balloon, but really not the attack you want to be utilizing to knock out a Sobble at this point.
Precisely. If the Professor's research whiffed, because we already had the Arceus V-Star, we still have the Starbirth to get those remaining 2 cards to complete the full shutdown of this combo.
And you need to find that. That was also a big grab off the research. None of this is possible without the help of Starbirth, and it was found off of the research. Those 7 cards providing a lot of utility for Ryota, and this is the flexibility, though, of having a little bit more time in top 8 cut. Kaiwin's really in no pressure to scoop things up and go to the next game. You've got plenty of time, especially in this matchup where things either snowball like this out of control, or Kaiwin applies a lot of aggression fast and really tries to put the pace back a little normal. But with Palkia, things can just go, you're gonna cross switcher, find the Drizzile. All these things just kind of happen out of nowhere. If you ever watch somebody have game with this deck, you're like, wait, there's 5 deck searches or whatnot, but At this point,
And
even
there's
grabbing
the
another...
Starbirth.
Yeah, so grabs the EV off the quick ball, and we're now going to see the Starbirth grab 2 cards. Most likely going to be the memory capsule. The card immediately grabbed. That is the piece that makes the memory awakening ability on the Jolteon possible. And this last card, yeah, it could be anything at this point. The double turbo energy is already there, so maybe a way to disrupt the hand or draw some more cards. Marty being pitched a little bit to the top of the deck, and it seems like it really, whatever card Ryota grabs, not much is going to change the fact that Kaiwan is in a borderline terrible position at this point.
We've just gone over that point over and over again, Ethan. There's really no other way to slice it. Ryota just has to reach out and grab the victory here. Made the read on the metagame, has piloted all the way up to the top 8 here in the finals, and has found the matchup that was prepared for this specific deck. There's the memory capsule. Once again, activating that Thunderous Awakening ability on the Jolteon. Now, no water Pokemon have abilities.
Yep, no Pokemon with abilities, and even putting a Path to the Peak saying, hey, if you play something like Tool Scrapper in your deck, you're still not going to be able to utilize concealed cards or Star Portal, and Kaiwan's hand is nothing that's playable. Going to put the Sobble up. What's the top deck for a turn? It's a water energy, so he can maybe power up this Palkia in 2 turns, but at this point, I mean, keep calling as well, I guess, is technically an option, so
yep,
we'll go ahead and...
Keep calling, can find more reinforcements for the bench. We've got the Origin Form Palkia V still just chilling there, but again, now with Path to the Peak, the memory capsule, we don't have Star Portal, so the acceleration and the explosiveness of this deck was completely missed out on in the early turns, and now is completely cut off.
Yeah, this play is smart because it allows Kaiwan to thin the deck out a little bit more. The best card that Kaiwan can draw into at this point is a Melanie because it draws you cards, it's not relying off of finding specific pieces, and it gets your Pokemon powered up. So that's Kaiwan's ideas. If I need to do anything next turn, it's going to require me playing a Melanie, attaching and attacking, and then doing it again the following turn because I'm not going to have access to Star Portal.
If we can take this, you know, in game number 2, we have to start thinking ahead, right? And if we can get a repeat of what happened earlier in the set with Daichi, where the Jolteon or the memory capsules end up in the prizes to open up a longer window where Kaiwan can operate with this Palkia list, we could see something happen. But even with, you know, you're back against the wall in a very terrible matchup, your opponent fully set up, locking you down. Kaiwan still playing his heart out, still trying to play towards these lines, hoping for the Melanie to come out next and save his bacon.
Yeah, that's one of the things you'd regret if you scoop early in a top cut match of like, could I play this out? So Kaiwan understands I'm not going to go down until all 6 prize cards are taken or until I can physically do nothing else with my hand or play any other cards, and it makes sense. You've got the time. You get some more information about the deck as well. Something we don't talk about a lot is it's a closed decklist tournament. I'm sure Kaiwan has ideas after watching Daichi and Ryota now on stream multiple times playing this deck, but you now get to see when your opponent's in front of you specific counts of cards, knowing if these lists are exactly the same. So that's what Kaiwan's kind of taking in, is just information about how do I plan the next time. It's also time to think at this point. What you're doing is pretty mindless. You're just promoting a Pokemon, not doing much. And okay, in the Irida top deck, so this can find something like a Capacious Bucket and another water Pokemon to start powering up these attackers. Kaiwan doesn't have any energy, had to ditch a few the early turns, and oh boy, that's a Pokemon we don't see a lot, Crabominable V.
Crabominable V was a special tech that these Palkia decks were including, just to have a little bit of extra play around the thread of that Miltank Mewtwo V Union deck. You know, with the Trigger Avalanche, you can be cheeky, trying to discard the top 2 cards from the deck. But of course, it's been in the prize, it's been discard fodder. These Palkia lists haven't really need to worry about that particular matchup or any use of this tech, but still beautiful art, and you love to see that Crab Boy.
Yeah, Destroyer Punch is really that main attack for the Mewtwo, but hey, Trigger Avalanche, you know, sometimes you can just discard some cards. Sometimes you can just get rid of some pieces you need. But this sort of desperation from Kaiwan shows that he's really got no clue what to do. There's no way to really get damage counters on this besides Zigzagoon, and it only does 150 if there's 10 damage onto this Pikachu. The advantage to playing this card...
And there's another pass.
Yeah, there's
so
another
unfortunate.
pass.
There's nothing that Kaiwan can do from this position. Ryota's just going to take knockout after knockout. At the very least, Kaiwan can keep promoting these single prize Pokemon, maybe try to drag this game out for a few more turns. But at this point, there's just really nothing you can put together. We don't even have a Palkia V-Star in play, no energy attachment to keep that powered up. Is Crabominable V really going to put the game on his back here?
Listen, if there's a Pokemon that can clutch up here for Kaiwan, I am putting all my love, all my faith into Crabominable. I love that Pokemon. Yeah, here we go. I mean, at this point for Ryota, it's pretty much just autopilot. Maybe you'd like to get another Pikachu up and running, but there's nothing threatening this one. You've got now a fully powered up Arceus that's going to be hitting for 180 damage. Not really in range to be knocked out at this point, especially when your opponent's not going to have consistent access to these cards like Choice Belt, like the quick shooting Inteleon to even utilize that ability to put some more damage on.
But overall, the setup has been completed. He's just closing in, even has the boss's orders to take away this Crabominable, putting a little bit more damage on it. Now we have another liability, just another way to take 2 more prizes, and Ryota's just circling his prey.
Are we going to see a Trigger Avalanche? That would be a first we've seen all day.
We've seen so many rule the region, right, from Palkia V that's just been have no other options for the turn. We've seen the highs and lows of this Palkia V deck, but who knows?
I'm on my ancient. Oh, here we go.
There it is, Trigger Avalanche.
If it's sort of Marnie, okay, you can get rid of that piece, but at the end of the day, it's not really going to matter. Ryota with this knockout will just go ahead and take 2 more prize cards, put himself 1 knockout away on this Palkia V-Star on the bench. And at this point for Kaiwin, just going to pass things over.
Pass. Sobble's just going to immediately get knocked out. Ryota can sequence this turn just a little bit more. Is there anything else you even want to thin out of the deck? Just takes the knock, goes down to 1 prize card. Kaiwin sends up another Sobble, and there's the scoop. Easy game 1 for Ryota. As I said, finds the matchup that he prepared for, that he was expecting to see here at the World Championship, and executes it flawlessly.
Yeah, good matchup in general, but the fact that even against any matchup at that point with how Kaiwin was drawing, there's not much. You can maybe keep up a little bit better because you're going to have access to shady dealings, but missing that first turn is so crucial. The format currently is really fast. A lot of decks want to just get up and running. We see Mew VMAX able to put on a lot of pressure. Even Arceus variants can boss his orders in combination with some damage modifiers to take knockouts onto opposing Pokemon V. And Palkia is just like that. It tries to, with this list, put on pressure, have the option to put on pressure with double cross switcher plays, with Moonlight Shuriken plays on the Radiant Greninja. And again, none of that's possible without Palkia V. That's a card Kaiwin really wants to see on this first turn. And he's going to be going first, so it has the Battle VIP pass. That is an advantage in this list. But again, if you don't find them now, and you have something like Irida in your hand, you're really going to be wishing you could play those cards. Not going to be able to on your first turn, no supporters.
The speed of the format is the name of the game. You talked about it, Ethan, with the Arceus having that Star Birth, searching your deck for the 2 missing pieces you need allows you to quickly convert to your victory, right? Depending on the current board state, you're going to find those missing pieces to make that combination happen to seal the deal on a game. Meanwhile, on the other side with the Palkia, we've got that Battle VIP pass, creating these very quick explosive starts, very consistent setups, and that's what Kaiwin needs. We need to see the classic Palkia V-Star Battle VIP pass opening, the Irida Radiant Greninja Capacious Bucket. We need the All-Star cast to come through here in the second game, and hopefully, you know, not even that setup. That's only one piece of the puzzle. The other side is hopefully Ryota gets some very bad prizes. We want to see the Jolteon in there, the Memory Capsule in there, something to slow down the ability for this counter list to lock him down.
Yeah, Boss's Orders in there is a pretty big deal. 1 copy of Switch as well in there. That could be a big deal as well, especially
something getting stranded in the active. We saw that Galarian Moltres V in the active. Without that Switch, maybe Kaiwin does get a few more turns after all.
And if there's a matchup you don't want to give your opponent mulligans in, it's this one, because it makes it even more possible for this Arceus deck to find that turn 1 Trinity Nova. And here we go. What's the start? It's looking a lot better. Kaiwin's got some cards to play. We'll get into things. Prize cards going out for Kaiwin. What do we see? A few Pokemon in there. The Roxanne being prized. That's a little bit of a big deal. It is towards the bottom, though, so it will most likely get grabbed before it needs to get played. And here we go. Are we going to be able to get
Battle
things kicked off?
VIP pass.
Has the Battle VIP pass.
Goes for the Capacious Bucket, of course.
Yeah, smartly just going to look through the deck and take a look at the prize cards. There's no reason not to. For some reason, if you're going to commit this and you look and say, well, all my Pokemon are prized, so I can't make anything happen. That's exactly what you want to be seeing. But excellent to see the Palkia down on the first turn. And yeah, with so many water energy, Kaiwin's really got to debate, do I prioritize getting down more Sobble this turn? Nothing's threatening my Origin Form Palkia V, or do I want to draw some more cards with Greninja? It's really going to be relative on the other cards in hand. I think we already saw a Drizzile in there, so there is at least access to a guaranteed shady dealings. However, you build the hand up, you discard some resources, it can all get reset thanks to Marnie.
Yeah, it's a tough choice because now with the Battle VIP Pass, you're going to make that decision right now. You're thinking to yourself, if I want to take maximum advantage of these early windows to get as much shady dealings as possible before the Memory Capsule and the Thunderous Awakening shut that off, or do I want to go more aggressive with the VIP Pass, getting a second maybe Palkia set up, but just going for the balanced opening of just one Sobble, one Radiant Greninja, just going to keep it going that way right now. We have the Water Energy as well to fuel that concealed cards, discard it from the hand to draw 2, looking through it as well. Once the deck comes back over, going to concealed cards for 2, another Origin form, Palkia V, and the V-Star, so it looks like the setup is almost complete. Do you think you'd like to see one more Sobble in here, though, Ethan?
Oh, absolutely. You want to get those down. You're only going to get shady dealings most likely for the first turn of the game. Kaiwan's deciding to attach to the active
attachment.
Yeah,
very nice.
Prioritizing Greninja here is smart because Kaiwan understands that Moonlight Shuriken is the key to this matchup. If your opponent gets down double Eevee, you need to be able to knock both of them out, and the easiest way to do that is with Moonlight Shuriken. So there's mulligans and a few other cards over on Ryota's side, and there's some pieces to work with. Does have a Professor's Research.
There we see. And the Evolution Incense, we can find the Hisuian Decidueye V-Star.
I mean, you can. This is one of the Pokemon
Trying to get some sort of attacking threat in play, but right now, it is looking very awkward for Ryota. Now that Kaiwan has the setup with the Battle VIP Pass, has the Greninja, this is looking like a much different game, but Ryota needs to get the Arceus, still needs to get the Flying Pikachu. This is sort of a counter box, has a lot of different moving parts to it, and there's always that chance with a deck like this that those pieces are just scattered to the 4 winds. It becomes a lot harder to set up and get it all assembled.
Yep, at this point, you really don't want to start that Hisuian Decidueye V. And this Evolution Incense is an indication that the Professor's Research will get played this turn. You know you're going to be discarding some other cards in your hand. You might as well get some deck information before you commit to discarding some resources. Let's say 2 Eevee are in there and you decide to hold on to the Jolteon. It makes no sense at that point. You'd rather just get rid of that and prioritize keeping some other pieces. So it's a smart play from Ryota just to get some information. Besides that, it will most likely just grab one of those cards like the Hisuian Decidueye V-Star. That's really the only one you want to discard. The Flying Pikachu, very good in this matchup, and the Arceus V-Star, of course, you're going to want to find that to utilize Starbirth. And I think that's just the decision here for Ryota is what do I want to grab, or do I even want to grab anything? Do I just want all these cards in my deck?
And these players over and over again have made that decision to just Professor's Research right off the beginning. We saw it in the first game. Doesn't matter what you're discarding as long as you're drawing into the rest of the cards you need for your setup. Does go ahead and pull that Hisuian Decidueye V-Star just to get it out of the deck. And we'll see what the next play will be. Thinking about the Lumineon, I think I see there.
It does have to get rid of the Jolteon. Now has done deck search, so that's another thing as well.
Okay, so there's the Eevee. See another victim potentially for the Moonlit Shuriken. Another Quick Ball already setting it up. Knows how important the Thunderous Awakening is to shut this deck down, but is now playing into that Moonlit Shuriken. Finds a Flying Pikachu V at the very least to have another attacker to pivot into, but Arceus has to be there to power it up.
Yeah, I mean, playing into the Moonlight Shuriken in a way, yes, but you want to get Eevee down regardless.
Yeah,
it's like
it's a risk you've got to take. You've got to get this Pokemon down to try to evolve at the next turn. One Jolteon was already discarded with the Quick Ball, and the Arceus V is there with the turn 1 attachment and Path to the Peak. Going to try to buy some time with the Professor's Research now as the final piece.
Yeah, Ryota understands that Kaiwan's going to have a pretty hard time applying pressure to this Arceus or the Flying Pikachu if this Path to the Peak
Memory Capsule attachment.
Yeah, Memory Capsule attachment here is good. It does play around the fact that if your opponent Marnies you, you will not have that on there. But at the same time, there's a high probability that Kaiwan can put together the pieces that are needed to take a knockout with the Moonlight Shuriken. Let's see what's in the hand. Already has the Palkia
now.
Has the Palkia V-Star and an Evolution Incense, so we could be seeing an Irida. There is a guaranteed way to get that out. The question, though, actually is, with Irida, you cannot find something like the Training Court, because you have to utilize your Shady Dealings to find that. So Kaiwan is maybe considering, do I want to play this first, maybe utilize the Melody for a turn? There's already some energies in the discard pile, but I think a smart choice to just find the Drizzile now and search for the Training Court, since really, without Training Court, you can't even utilize something like the Concealed Cards ability.
Exactly.
It's just going to open up more options for Kaiwan on this turn.
Yeah, the Greninja is a rule box Pokemon, does fall under the influence of Path to the Peak, and I think at this point you know that with this game number 2, this final chance to stay in the World Championship tournament, you have to take maximum advantage of this moment in time before the Thunderous Awakening cuts you off.
So this is actually a play that I've liked that Kaiwin is taking route-wise. Ryota started one of the worst Pokemon possible, which is the Hisuian Decidueye V. And if Kaiwin can fill the bench up all the way, oh wait, actually never mind.
Ooh.
Going for the boss's orders onto the Eevee, making sure that Kaiwin's going to have access to Star Portal and Shady Dealings the following turn. At minimum, Shady Dealings. There's the knockout with Subspace Swell.
Completely removing that threat, going to buy a couple more turns of having free use of the concealed cards. Now the threat of the Star Portal, once we get that training court down to bump the path to the peak, is going to be online. I love just by taking down that Eevee, it opens up so many more potential threats and opportunities for Kaiwin.
And the big thing is Path to the Peak stays in play. Ryota would have actually been okay with the turn ending with Path to Peak gone, replaced by Training Court, because that means that Ryota would have access to Starbirth. And you see how powerful this hand would have been if Starbirth was available, but all it is just a bunch of Ball Surge cards, and Path to the Peak shuts off this draw engine. Nothing like B-Barrel in this deck. It's really reliant off of these Pokemon with Dark Asset and Luminous Sign to find the supporters and fill the hand back up. None of that's possible. However, Pumpkaboo can allow things to happen for a time. You really don't want to bench Pumpkaboo in this matchup. It's an easy target as a one-prizer. You've got no way to pick it back up, so a couple of quick shootings down the line can take care of it. And it also fuels more damage into the Subspace Swell attack, but it's all sacrifices you have to make to be able to draw cards and keep up with the aggressive pace that Palkia V-Star provides.
Finally, we are seeing Palkia flex what it is capable of, even in this potential counter matchup. The Path to the Peak, as I said earlier, is the piece that Ryota wants to use to maintain the advantage. But now, because that was not properly sealed up before the Path to the Peak hit, it's now becoming a massive detriment. We've got the V-Star now off of the Ultra Ball. With the evolution, now we have access to Trinity Nova for a little bit more damage. Get the energies onto Flying Pikachu VMAX now, but does bump the Path to the Peak, needs the Starbirth now. Instead of using it to solidify a favorable position in the game, is using it to try to catch up.
So this is a decision that Ryota has to make at this point, is one of your Eevee with a memory capsule has already been knocked out. You're already down a Jolteon. Do you commit resources, or rather commit your choices off of Starbirth to set up another Jolteon? Or do you understand that it's a little bit too late in the game? And besides the fact that it might be a little bit too late, Kaiwin hasn't used Star Portal yet and will have access to that since the Pumpkaboo came down and discarded the Path to Peak. Ryota can grab another Path to Peak and play it down. A Stadium hasn't been played for turn, so it can still go into play and be applied so that the Star Portal cannot be used. But at the same time, Kaiwin still has a way to get rid of that. Shady Dealings will guaranteed be online this turn, and Moonlight Shark going to take 2 easy prizes on the Pumpkaboo and the Eevee. Have to be something that Ryota is considering as a detrimental effect of playing this down. Hasn't even played a supporter card for turn.
Yep, just gets the Professor's Research now. 7 more cards to refuel and keep digging for those key pieces. Kaiwin is a half step ahead now in this game because of the threat of the Moonlight Shuriken. Ryota can't bench that Eevee safely, is still thinking about it. It's in the hand right now, but the odds of getting this to stick onto the bench and get that evolution is so low. Has the second Path to the Peak, is going to try to protect it from the Star Portal Moonlit Shuriken combo with this clutch Stadium.
Yeah, so the Stadium War is pretty relevant in this matchup. Kaiwin only playing 2 copies of the Stadium that we see typical in this deck. A Path to the Peak and a Training Court. Ryota really going for a more disruptive build when it comes to this deck, and Stadiums with 3 copies of Path to the Peak. Even if Ryota puts the first Stadium card into play, we'll always win the Stadium War, because even after the one gets bumped and one gets replaced, there's still an extra Stadium remaining over. So Kaiwin's going to have the ability to have a turn of abilities at this point. If there's one turn to play down Training Court, this is the turn that Kaiwin's really looking for it.
If you can get that Training Court down, bump the Path to the Peak, opens up that Star Portal, the Moonlit Shuriken combo, the classic play from the Palkia V-Star decks we've seen time and time again. In order to take down some of these basic Pokemon, usually Sobbles end up being the target, but a Pumpkaboo and an Eevee are perfect targets as well to get 2 prizes, get more resources as well to keep this advantage going. Irida is going to be the perfect answer for that.
And you see how this matchup can start to spiral out of control if Kaiwan has access to water abilities for too long. And this means that Shady Dealings and Teleon, which usually, if things are going right for Ryota, never come into play because they should be locked out of the game even before they evolve into Drizzile at this point.
Yep, finds the Shady Dealings and Teleon, has the scoop up net, going to take maximum advantage of this window. All you need is a chance to use these abilities to get the cards you need, and now Kaiwan is in the driver's seat, has the training court off the Shading Dealings along with the Capacious Bucket, so now everything is coming up roses for Kaiwan. All the resources are there. We just need to see the attack announced with the Moonlit Shuriken.
Yeah, there is still technically the argument to go after another Pokemon. Again, the Pumpkin Boo is always going to be there. And the Eevee, even when it evolves to Jolteon, still is 100 HP, so it can be knocked out by a simple Zigzagoon Headbutt Tantrum ability as well. So those options will always be there. There's no way for Ryota to remove those Pokemon off of the board. And there is that liability of the Hisuian Decidueye V that's just sitting on the bench really doing nothing. So that's kind of the opportunities and the plays that Kaiwan really has to consider. It's not all set in stone. And wow, what a draw there off the concealed
Double
cards.
cross switcher.
Double cross switcher. That's going to open up even more options and plays. And checking onto that Pikachu, it does only have a single lightning energy onto it off that Trinity Nova. So this is really a big tell from Ryota saying, I've got double turbo energy in my hand, and I'm ready to attach it next turn.
There is also the consideration if you go for the Moonlit Shuriken, you're taking out 2 basic Pokemon from the bench, making your Palkia V-Star deal less damage, making it harder to maybe get another knockout down the road, but still just keeps digging through the deck. Kaiwan is just fully opened up in this game with no Memory Capsule, no Thunderous Awakening. We can see that the Palkia deck is still very explosive, very flexible. Now has a second Palkia V-Star set up, ready to go. Another attacker to potentially pivot into.
Yeah, this is really big as well because it means there is the potential for Kaiwan to get this knockout onto the active Arceus V-Star. Choice Belt and Zigzagoon will be just enough damage to get this knockout. And also the Moonlight Shuriken play is still available. But the scary thing is, if you leave an Eevee in play, there's the potential for it to get turned into Jolteon. And if it's a Jolteon, nothing else is going to happen. So very smart play. We are going to see what appears to be the Moonlight Shuriken. There's the Star Portal, V-Star Power. Puts the 3 energy on. And this is a great play from Kaiwan. Can also put the energy back into the hand for the following turn. If concealed cards are still available, if another path to the peak doesn't come down to play. And hasn't even attached the energy for turn yet.
The attach for turn onto the fresh Palkia V. So now we have that additional attacking pivot, right? This cascading threat level. The Arceus is still in the active, but hasn't had a chance to properly power up the next thing. And Echoing Horn brings back the Galarian Moltres V to fill up the bench, going to put another easy target in play to fix this prize map. And there it is, the Moonlight Shuriken going to draw 2 prizes.
Yeah, Kaiwan has made the map pretty simple. Can either knock out the Flying Pikachu in 2 turns, or can take a knockout on 2 V Pokemon in 2 turns. But understands most likely this Flying Pikachu is going to come up and attack as soon as the following turn. So if Kaiwan can utilize those cross switchers that they're in hand, look at that, 3 cross switchers just chilling, relaxing in the hand, ready to be played the following turn. And the mapping is pretty simple. You just got to do that twice, hit with 2 Palkia V-Star, and it's all possible. But Ryota's still got some counterplay at this point. Boss's orders to bring up something like the damaged Palkia, that could be a solid play. That's really going to be the key card, but with how things stand, it looks like Ryota really just eyeing up the Marnie, and this is going to put a big stamp into Kaiwan's plans. All those cross-switcher going to the bottom of the deck that he worked so hard to get, drawing so many cards with concealed cards, finding pieces off of the Drizzile and Inteleon. And these cards are nowhere near as good as they were, as were the previous cards in hand. Scoop up net some other pieces. We'll see how he can utilize that when turn passes over to him.
The scoop up net's going to still open up a lot of options to break free and claw back from this Marnie, of course. From this position, it looks like Ryota is just using that to try to lock down. At the end of the day, this is still a Marnie path to the peak deck, has some semblance of lockdown even without that memory capsule play, but missing out on that full setup means that you have to take down your opponent on a much more even keel. You aren't enjoying this looming presence where you're so far above your opponent. And now, if you give Palkia a chance to do its own game plan and force you to respond in kind, it's going to find these wins, and Kaiwan is looking very good here in Game 2, hopefully taking us to a very hyped Game 3 to keep things going here for top 8.
Yeah, at this point, it really comes down to, did Ryota find a way to bump this stadium and keep Path of the Peak in play at all? There are some benefits to keeping it open, but Kaiwa's going to have a lot of more access to concealed cards as a more powerful ability. But hey, with that being gone at this point, it may actually be better to leave the training court in play. It sounds risky. You're going to give your opponent access to more resources, but you're going to make sure that for the rest of the game, you can utilize Luminous Sign and Dark Asset, and whether or not that was a choice, whether or not that was a choice.
There, powering up the Galarian Moltres V. All of this motley crew of Pokemon that are on the bench are still able to be powered up by Arceus V-Star. So now Ryota is trying to do that classic style of, I have a lot of different options to keep my attacking threats up and running in response.
Yep, absolutely at this point. And Kaiwin has plenty of options to work with, has an attachment for turn. Actually,
still up.
Yeah, not as many options as I thought at this point. Just has the scoop up net, can utilize that to put the Palkia up. The plays are there, but the problem is this Arceus V-Star, with only 3 bench Pokemon on the bench for Ryota, not really in range of being knocked out, especially when Kaiwin does not have a lot of access to Shady Dealings, especially when you're going to cut off the access to the Inteleon Shady Dealings right away by using that scoop up net.
Scoop up net to get the Drizzile out of the active. We do have that Sobble that can evolve to use that Shady Dealings. The fresh Origin form Palkia V-Star being promoted into the active. This is a huge liability for Kaiwin, however, having this damage to prize Pokemon on the bench. 2 more Sobbles are benched now, and we're looking through the deck here with Shady Dealings.
Yeah, most likely wants to get back some of that energy tempo that we have seen before. This is a big part of why Melanie's in the deck and why Kaiwin is playing too. Wants to make sure that there are those opportunities to play some cards like Roxanne later in the game. Make sure that things are still up to date if you're going to commit 3 energies to something like the Radiant Greninja. Those are all possibilities, and those are things you got to consider when building a deck of, okay, I've got this great play that really sets a hole in my opponent's plan, but if they're able to escape and get out of it, how can I still keep pace and respond?
The Melanie is, you know, again, a great backup option after you've already used the Star Portal. You're still having that flexibility, that tempo of getting the energies down. We're going to shuffle the deck after this, so now the cross switchers are going to be kind of back live out from the bottom of the deck. And here comes the Melanie after all, off of the Drizzile Shady Dealings. 3 more cards will be off the top of the deck for Kaiwin, trying to just solidify this advantage. Already down to 3 prizes, only needs to do a little bit more work to close out this second game.
Yeah, Ryota's still in an excellent spot, I would feel like, at this spot. The Flying Pikachu is still just sitting there, looming on the bench, slowly approaching overhead. And if you're not taking a knockout on this Arceus, especially if you don't have access to cross switchers right away, it could be a big issue. There's the Melanie accelerating the energy, can attach the energy from the discard pile after being put into the hand with Training Court. And yeah, you're going to hit this Arceus pretty hard, but especially if things start moving around, if Pokemon start switching, you're not really doing enough damage as it stands right now to get this one-hit knockout. You're going to have to route this knockout later down the line, which can be hard, especially if your opponent's going to consistently be playing these Marnies to disrupt your hand.
Once this attack goes through, Ryota does just have the Flying Pikachu that's going to start taking down attackers. We've seen the Palkia V-Star, you know, have this great threat potential, but 1 or 2 knockouts happen. They run out of fresh attackers to keep that threat level up, and then things just go downhill from there. Going to just have that baby subspace swell, not enough to knock out, as you said, Ethan, but we'll see if a knockout can come through later on. The draw now over to Ryota, has to respond to this to get fully into the driver's seat. Half of the lockdown strategy did not work, but we still have that lightning weakness, the main purpose and reason for this Flying Pikachu VMAX to be here in the World Championships.
Yeah, Kaiwin taking this attack with the fresh Palkia because he really wants to force this Flying Pikachu out into the active spot because that is the win condition for Kaiwin. Kaiwin wants to attack into this Flying Pikachu 2 times to win the game before Ryota is able to take 5 prize cards, and it seems pretty doable at this point, especially when you're keeping pace with Melanie at this position in the game. There's no other way for Ryota to really respond. If you take a knockout with something like this, or rather if you hit into this active with Arceus, Kaiwin's also okay with that at this point. So this really seems like Kaiwin has found a way to claw back, and you can see how Ryota's deck is a lot less strong, a lot less powerful into this deck when it doesn't have access to slowing things down dramatically with Jolteon.
Now with Arceus V hitting the bench, you're just powering up that subspace swell, but still trying to keep, again, that threat potential to have different things to pivot into to try to drag out this game. Another Marnie going to try to slow things down, buy some more time. Ryota is scrambling here, needs to take 5 prizes before Kaiwen can find a way to eyeball and snipe down this Pikachu VMAX. It's all there for the taking, as you said, Ethan. Just has to swing into it twice. This list isn't one that has the sort of healing that we've seen from the classic Arceus V-Star Inteleon list that wanted to just kind of grind you down. Here comes the Pikachu, after all, to get the knockout.
Yep, so there should be 200 damage on that benched Arceus. So players, sometimes the dice slip around a little bit. We'll get that settled out. So
yeah, the judges are there.
Yeah.
They know what's going on.
Yep, Max Balloon here. It looks like 220 damage, actually. So Max Balloon, yep, there we go. Okay.
Oh, yeah, you were right.
Yeah, you know what? We'll figure it out here at this point. But there's the Max Balloon. It's going to be dealing just enough damage with the reduction of that double turbo energy. 280 after weakness will also prevent basics from attacking it. It's really good into raiding Greninja, but with the inclusion of cross switchers, they can play around it. Things are possible. No longer a play.
There's
and there
the
it is.
knockout.
And
2
Max
prizes. We knew that one of the, the switch was prized. There's another Marnie coming off of the prizes, so another chance at a lockdown, disrupting Kaiwen. Even though I can't stop you from using Shady Dealings, I can just make you put the cards you got from the Shady Dealings right back into the bottom of the deck. Hisui and Heavy Ball now coming out for Kaiwen. Going to take a look in the prizes and hopefully find just a little bit more info there. Looking for one more basic Pokemon, just going to shuffle it, put it back.
Yep, Drizzle at the bottom there as
Yep,
well.
just failing it there.
Yeah, it's not going to be, these prizes aren't going to really be relevant whether it comes to getting them out of the prize cards, because Kaiwen has made it pretty clear that, hey, these last 3 prize cards, it's going to be by knocking out this Flying Pikachu. However, there has to be a backup attacker to be able to take these last 2 prize cards. You're going to be dealing a solid chunk of damage.
Yeah, we need to have that Palkia set up, maybe attach for turn, another Melanie to get that second energy down. Training Court's been hanging out this whole time. The access to energy is definitely there. Scoop up net on the Drizzile, a fresh Sobble, re-bench, re-evolution into the Drizzile. And we're going to go digging again, Ethan. Looks for a quick ball.
Yeah, so Kaiwen wants to play another Melanie this turn because at this point, you want to pretty much put yourself in a spot where you need to attach the energy for turn, but you also need an attacker for the following turn. And Melanie's going to do both of that. It's going to accelerate the energy onto this active Palkia, and then as well, at that point, he can go ahead and utilize the manual attachment for turn on the Palkia. And Kaiwen's not going to run out of energy because the Training Court is still in play, and those are going to provide consistent energy recovery. Kaiwen's going to have good resources.
Yep,
things are looking good.
So we've got the Palkia V, we've got the attachment for turn, we have the Melanie, and now what's so great about this is a little bit of extra value. You know, this Palkia is already damaged. You know it's going to get one shot even if it's at full HP. So you get a little bit of cheeky. You get that final hit in before it gives up that KO, before it gives up those prize cards. Ryota looking to go down to 1 prize, and then Kaiwen is going to try to take everything back by taking down this Flying Pikachu VMAX, which is worth 3 prizes.
You're not sure if Kaiwen has used Training Court yet. If not, that would be a great way to get the energy back into hand for the following turn. But Kaiwen is a seasoned player, so I'm sure it's been used already. Going to be dealing enough damage to put this Flying Pikachu in a world of hurt, and Ryota is not able to win the game this turn. Will be 1 prize card short if this Palkia gets knocked out, and that's the advantage sometimes of playing V-Star Pokemon compared to VMAX Pokemon, especially if their power level is similar. One's going to make it so that if you knock out 2, you just lose the game. The other, you're only going to get 2/3 of the way there.
And we know that Ryota has that Marnie in the hand, has one more shot at putting Kaiwen into a really brick state to be unable to execute. We only have the Palkia V on the bench. We still need the Palkia V Star. We need that energy attachment as well. But again, with the Training Court hanging out, we can find that from the discard pile to get that attachment. So it looks like as long as Marnie's Vengeance doesn't get a massive shutdown here, Kaiwen will actually be able to close out this second game and take us to a game 3.
Yeah, Ryota's just really deciding at this point. Card hand size, a lot of factors that go into playing this Marnie. You also need to find a way to attack.
Yeah, there's a deep calculation there. You can see a lot of thought. You know, what are the chances that the Marnie is actually going to lock down? Do I want to try to retreat this Flying Pikachu VMAX, maybe promote a 2 prize Pokemon into the active? Is Kaiwen really going to be able to assemble the cross switchers?
I think the big piece that's missing here right now, and Ryota has it, is the double turbo energy. Ryota really wants to attack with a Pokemon that's not this Flying Pikachu VMAX, because He wants to make Kaiwen work for these last 3 prizes to get not only an attacker powered up off of 5 cards with the draw for turn included, but also have to gust up this Flying Pikachu on the bench, and from there it's pretty easy. But the fact of the matter as well, on Ryota's side, does have Boss's orders in hand. That could be a key piece he's thinking about keeping, but no, I think it's just worth at this point. Actually, no, wow. Boss's order is bringing the Drizzile up, and this is another smart way of doing this. Valuing, instead of playing the Marnie, is going to say the main way you're going to get there in the next turn is to utilize Irida, most likely, to find shady dealings in Teleon, to grab you a whole bunch of trainer pieces. Instead of putting you at low hand size, let me remove the Pokemon that are going to help you get to that victory.
And now after the shuffle, going to take that final prize. Wow. And has the cross switcher ready to go.
A huge
brings
draw.
Up the Flying Pikachu VMAX, brings up the Palkia V-Star, takes the knockout, and Kaiwen manages to clutch it up.
We're going to game 3, Adam. We're going to a 3rd game here at the top 8 cut of the World Championships. A big advantage for Ryota going into this, going first. We saw how strong it was when Ryota got that extra edge. Hasn't started the game so far in this matchup, so this is where it's really going to come down to. Ryota's going to have less draw power in a sense. Going to be unable to dig through the deck with supporters like Professor's Research and Marnie, but at the same time, you can set up Jolteon before your opponent uses any abilities besides concealed cards. That's a big advantage. Sometimes playing against this deck, it feels like you're playing a solitaire where it doesn't matter how well you set up on your first turn or how well you draw. If your opponent gets the Jolteon lock in combination with a Flying Pikachu and an Arceus that can Trinity Nova and either deal heavy amounts of damage or take a knockout, sometimes the game can feel unwinnable. We sort of saw that in game number 1. Game 2, Jolteon was pushed off the board. It was not possible to establish it due to the help of Greninja, Moonlight Shuriken. We're going to game 3. A new narrative may unfold. The story is being painted. The pictures are falling into the scrapbook, and this is where we are painting our canvas for what top 8 of Worlds will look like and how people will view this event years and years to come.
These are where the legends are made. Both of these players, regardless of the outcome of this 3rd game, you have to remember their names. We know that they are previous Worlds competitors. They know what they're doing. They've been in this situation before, and they're fighting to advance. Kaiwen making the miracles happen in an unfavored matchup, and it all comes down to that half step of tempo. If the Radiant Greninja can come out to preempt these Eevees before they can evolve, versus whether or not the memory capsule Thunderous Awakening can stick.
These hands are going to be big. Don't think I saw a way to get an Eevee, but these prize cards are going to be very important. What cards are unavailable for both players?
Oh, the Professor's Research. That's been such a huge tool for Ryota to just throw away that hand, get those 7 cards, because it's not about throwing away resources. It's about getting those key pieces set up before it's too late.
Ooh, Shady Dealings, Teleon, and a few copies of Capacious Bucket. That can make things hard for Kaiwen to get those energies into hand and discard them. And this is a big turn 1. Wow, no Eevee down turn 1. That's a big miss for Ryota.
The Flying Pikachu in the active, but Kaiwen has the Irida here on the first turn, so that means that you can search through, find that Battle VIP pass, get the rest of the setup up, and now with Kaiwen getting this jump, this explosive start, it means that we're going to see a repeat of having that threat of the Radiant Greninja to preempt the Eevee.
Yeah, especially when you're missing the Eevee on the first turn of the game. There is a really obscure line that you could actually try and threaten aggro Pikachu at this point by attacking with that Max Balloon attack on the following turn with help of the Arceus V-Star. But the fact that you're not even going to be taking a knockout this turn, you can at maximum hit this Arceus for high amounts of damage, but not take that knockout is definitely something that Ryota will be at minimum missing. You can at least establish a VMAX, but the big thing over on Kaiwen's side, getting set up, finding Battle Pass. This is what the deck wants to do, and there's the potential to draw even more. You see how strong Kaiwen's hand is basic-wise. Didn't even grab a basic Pokemon. Yeah. Already has the Greninja to draw a few more cards. We'll see if this can get into some more Battle Pass. That would be a big find for Kaiwen to accelerate the board even more and to start to get things set up. What do we see?
Oh, no, another water energy. Great. We need to see these water energies come because the Capacious Buckets are in the prizes. That's the saving grace for Ryota, even though the Radiant Greninja is set up without enough energies accelerated out of the deck and into the discard pile. That subspace swell, I mean the Star Portal combo to power up the Radiant Greninja might not come, and an Eevee maybe can hit the board safely. With the turn 1 Arceus and attachment, we have the threat of the Trinity Nova, we have the Starbirth to find those missing pieces. So Kaiwin, even though we have a strong setup, may be unable to convert.
Yeah, Quick Ball here can get rid of a card that's not going to have any use in this matchup, and that Crabominable V.
It's the true hero. It's always providing fodder when you need it.
Listen, it's more emotional support for me when I see it in the deck. It's just there to be a nice friend in a lot of matchups, but more importantly, able to establish a second Palkia V on the bench if for some wacky reason there's a way for Ryota to apply enough pressure to take the knockout. This is game 3. Players don't have full deck list knowledge. You want to play around some surprise and rule the region. It's not a bad attack in this case because it's going to guarantee the training court into hand. On one hand, this is good, but on the other hand, by putting the training court into your hand before you are utilizing it right away instead of right off the bat with the Shady Dealings, Marnie can put that to the bottom of the deck, and it means you're not going to have any chance to draw into it off of those 4, 5 cards, including top deck, that you're going to see during the turn.
Rule the Region has kind of been this odd attack that over and over has just been, I might as well use it. I don't have anything else to do. But in this particular matchup, it does have that use of having the stadium ready to go. Arceus V-Star now part of the equation, and the Marnie does come through. Ryota saying, put that stadium back. I want my path to the peak to stick. I need to keep you under control so I can get my setup.
Yeah, that was actually also a big-time find off the top of the deck. Found the Arceus V-Star. That's going to guarantee the Trinity Nova this turn. Looking at the other pieces in the hand, is there a way to get Eevee down? This is sort of the problem. If you're not establishing Jolteon before your opponent can even get a Moonlight Shuriken play with this Radiant Greninja, it feels like, am I just putting prize cards into play that are free for my opponent? They're going to want to hit into my Pikachu anyways and get a 2-hit knockout.
If
am I just giving them free prizes?
Pick up those early prizes, we're getting the Capacious Bucket, and then suddenly that avalanche starts to happen over and over again. The Eevee is found off the Quick Ball. The setup is there. Here comes the Starbirth, looking through the deck to grab those 2 missing pieces, maybe the Memory Capsule, maybe the Jolteon. And now Kaiwin has to find a way to get this, again, the Moonlit Shuriken. We may be a path to the peak as well, already set up. Arceus coming to the active, going to shut down that Star Portal. There's the attack, the Trinity Nova, and the acceleration. Kaiwin drawing for turn.
I don't think there's anything in this hand. What's that supporter? It's a boss's orders. There's no way to find any Drizzile or remove this path to the peak.
After that Marnie was played to send that training court down, the lockdown has prevented the Moonlit Shuriken from punishing the Eevee. Now the fully lockout with the Thunderous Awakening is going to be the key for Ryota here in game number 3. Everything is on the line for these players to remain in the World Championship.
Yeah, it's not going to be guaranteed because Starbirth was already used, but over on Kaiwin's side, it's a big-time miss because you need to at least hit into this Arceus to stay into this game. Otherwise, you're just going to give him a free 2 prize cards. You can play the heavy ball, see the cards you don't have access to, but what do you even do? You can, I mean, you guess you could bring the Eevee up and try to stall it out for a turn, but it's so easy to move. Besides the switch, any energy will do to get it out of the active spot. And, oh, wow, this Marnie could make, or I think this Marnie might break Kaiwin's chances of getting into top 4. You need to use these early turns when you have access to Shady Dealings to the most of your ability, to the best advantage that you can. And there's no way to even get a single one down. It's a big miss. They're going to have to just rule the region for a training court again.
Gonna try it once more. Rule the region for the training court. Ryota has a chance to just put it right back with a Marnie. This lockdown is so important. Previously in that second game, the chain of the Marnie into the Marnie, trying to figure out when your opponent is now in that awkward state. You've properly tenderized them, and you know that you have them in that losing position, and you're going to make sure they stay there. Now with the draw for turn, Ryota gets a Marnie!
Does he have the Memory Capsule? He has Jolteon Memory Capsule in hand. Oh, he doesn't even have to play the Marnie. He's just got it.
And is going to double check the discard pile. Going to take absolute calculation here whether or not they want to commit to the Marnie.
So there are advantages. Playing the Marnie, at this point, it seems like it's beneficial. You lock your opponent out of everything. You just are really looking for that Pikachu, flying Pikachu VMAX.
Takes
but
the knockout.
No, this is fine as well. You're just going to take the knockout, accelerate some energy out of the board if you want. Those are cards you don't want to draw into if that's the potential. You can just put them on the Arceus to be a pivot. And wow, that will be the choice. Just understanding I don't want to draw into these cards. I'm going to put them onto my Arceus so that I can retreat the double turbo energy off and deal a little bit more damage.
And
wow.
now the locked-out is happened. Kaiwen was able to take full advantage of how slow Ryota's setup was, got so much value out of the lack of that Thunderous Awakening.
Thunderous Awakening is online, and it will stay online until that Jolteon is knocked out. No way to remove the tool cards, and that's going to be hard. Doesn't have the boss's orders in hand, but what is the top deck for turn?
We know that Kaiwen's in an awkward spot. We have
the water energy.
Just the water energy.
It doesn't
this
matter.
Palkia is not set up at all, just one manual attachment for the turn, and now Ryota is in this bully position where I can start chasing down any threats that you're trying to get set up instead. No concealed cards ability, no shady dealings, no star portal. The Thunderous Awakening shuts down everything this deck wants to do. There's a boss's orders, but nothing to attack with. Back over to Ryota, and it looks like he just needs to reach out and grasp victory from this position. Ultra Ball, even going to get rid of the Marnie, knows it's not needed at this point. I've got my opponent completely locked down and right where I want them.
That's a big find there. Gets the Flying Pikachu VMAX out. There's no way for Kaiwen to take a one-hit knockout, especially when under Lightning, or rather Thunderous Awakening lock. Not going to be able to use any water-type Pokemon ability, and also got the Research for turn as well. Those cards coming off the prize cards and the top of the deck can even attach the double turbo energy to this Jolteon to make sure it doesn't get locked out, and it's going to do exactly that. 7 fresh new cards. Ryota is running away with this.
Ryota has been playing the 7-card Professor's Research consecutively over and over again, just beautifully thinning the hand down and drawing right back up with the fresh 7. Has now a second Flying Pikachu V, takes the knockout on the Sobble, and is now closing the net on this third game to advance in the top 8 of the World Championships.
Doors are shutting on Kaiwen. You're in this position where it just seems like there is no way out. This is where legends are made. This is where Kaiwen can try and find something to put out, but even the best of players can be limited and stopped. What's the top deck for turn? It's just a tool jammer. You can just going to be pitched away with the quick ball, but at this point, the Palkia is in the active. It can't move at all. It will be knocked out by a max balloon as it stands. The Palkia can just sit there and admire everything that's happening on Ryota's board, but nothing can be done. No pressure can be applied. No damage can be dealt, and Kaiwen's just stuck in the water, nothing to do.
To see a deck known for its ability to search out any piece that it wants at almost any given time, to be just put into top deck mode is such a wild dichotomy between power level here. The Thunderous Awakening started to see a lot of play purely to shut down the Intellion engines, and now as we've gotten more cards added to the format, that's just more water Pokemon that just gets scooped up by this tech. Training Court does bump that path to the peak. Boss's orders to bring up the Flying Pikachu VMAX.
So Kaiwen did have a play there, did have the Training Court, can finally, for the next turn, put the abilities on, but is it just too late at this point? The Flying Pikachu is already set up and can take the knockout to put Ryota down to 1 prize card. As long as Ryota doesn't overbench or do really anything else, he's got the game locked up. Nothing can take out this Flying Pikachu. The only thing that can survive a max balloon attack is just that Crabominable, and we know it's gone. Kaiwen can put up anything. Kaiwen can try to stall, but every Pokemon can retreat. Has Irida at least for turn. You've got to play it out. You got to play to your outs, but the doors are they're closed and the chain is going on. That's the question at this point. You're going to at least have abilities, so you're going to be able to see some more cards, but the only line I can potentially think of, maybe something around stalling out a Pokemon, but we haven't even seen the switch be played yet. Going to draw some more cards with concealed cards.
A little bit more of a shuffle there before the draw. And again, even at this point in the game, the player's still making sure those sequences are correct.
Yep.
Kaiwen only able to take 1 prize this turn after showcasing what the deck can potentially do. There is the Palkia V-Star. We've got a level ball to try to find some other option, but Ryota is just patiently waiting for Kaiwen to finish this turn. As soon as that card is drawn, Ryota can announce the attack onto the Radiant Greninja. We need to find some way to switch and strand, but even the Flying Pikachu V is just a free retreat.
And there's Roxanne. We saw it bail Cal Connor out of a poor position earlier today, but I don't think there could be a poorer position than this one. The attachment for turn to the Greninja, the Radiant Greninja, but again, there's no Pokemon that can play the Roxanne. It'll have to be some sort of combination of like Echoing Horn and Cross Switcher. This just looks bad.
When you know that there is almost no way to win, you just have to go through the motions here. And Ryota, again, taking this all the way to a Game 3 is already an achievement in and of itself. Making it all the way to the top 8 of the World Championships is already an achievement in and of itself. Kaiwin's been in this position before, and it is a shame that he won't be able to advance, but even with the clutch Roxanne that makes the miracles happen, when your opponent has your entire deck canceled out, what can you do?
Okay, well, this is what you can do. I said it! You drew to the perfect combination. Found the Echoing Horn and double Cross Switcher, so Kaiwin understands the only line of play is if this Pikachu, Flying Pikachu, cannot attack, it can't deal damage to me, it can't take prize cards. Maybe I can try to stall this out for a little, but the question now is, what Pokemon do you want to switch into up this Cross Switcher? Is going to get a little bit more information off of this Evolution Incense. This Drizzile can find the Scoop Up net, but I mean, what else can you really do at this point? You've just got to hope off these two cards. Your opponent does not have a way to get this Moltres out of the active spot.
That is the piece. But even if you do strand this Moltres, you're buying yourself 1-2 more turns. You still have to take the time to set up this Palkia manually. Maybe a Melanie can come through to get it. But the Flying Pikachu VMAX, like we saw in game number 2, is a 2-hit knockout. Kaiwin has 5 prize cards left to take. If this was a little bit closer, we maybe could have seen it. But Galarian Moltres V now in the active, and Radiant Greninja here with the Star Portal, getting energy accelerated.
This is possible. Didn't target down the Pikachu V Max and the Arceus on the bench. So this is pretty much setting up, putting the damage on. Ryota's got to find something off these 3 cards. What is there? Is there potential?
Switch the Moltres?
It's Decidueye. There's a Quick Ball. Okay, Quick Ball can be played. That can find the Lumineon or the Crobat. That can fill the hand back up. There's no path to the peak in play. Let's take a look at the outs in the deck. There's a double Turbo Energy. The Switch is in there as well. And that seems to be
Ryota is eyeballing those, seeing what is available. Calculating, you know, okay, am I going to try to go for the draw of the Dark Asset? Do I need to Lumineon for a supporter to find that card, find that switch?
The lines are thin. It's really hard for Kaiwin to be able to pull this game out.
And Crobat V is the decision here. Going to thin the hand down, go for that Dark Asset to draw up to 6, and has to draw the double Turbo Energy or the Switch to get this Galarian Moltres V out of the active spot and take the knockout, the final prize on the Radiant Greninja. 6 cards between winning on this turn.
Still has access to the supporter, but here we go. 5 cards off this Dark Asset. Do we see the double Turbo Energy? No, but there is a research, and there are plenty of ways to thin the hand out. So Ryota's got something here. Looking at the amount of cards in deck, it is completely possible, and we're going to see this happen right now.
The deck is looking very thin. Ryota has sequenced beautifully time and time again to get that 7-card Professor's Research play. Everything just getting discarded down. Looking through the deck, failing the ball, finds the Flying Pikachu to discard that with the Professor.
Yeah, I can evolve that. It's the same thing at this point. Really just thinning it out of the deck.
Get it out of the deck, put it down.
Here we go, Adam. This is a big
7 cards.
This is a big 7 cards. Maybe about 20 left in deck, so we're looking at a little bit around 50%. There are 2 outs in the deck, so things are not impossible. Things aren't necessarily guaranteed. It's never guaranteed in the Pokemon trading card game. And here we go, big 7 cards.
7 cards.
What are we going to see off of this Switch or double Turbo Energy? Either of those cards will get the game for Ryota. Where is it? Is it there? There's a double Turbo Energy. It can retreat to the Flying Pikachu VMAX, and that's it. Ryota Ishiyama is going to advance to top 4 here at the Pokemon World Championships.
What a game, even with the deck built to counter his opponent. Kaiwin pushed him to the edge, and he was able to find that final piece to get the switch and take the win. Game number 3, he advances. What an amazing set to see here at the World Championships in London.
Yeah, and so heartbreaking for Kaiwan. You know he wanted this so badly. He was here last year just to be stopped short of the advancement into top 4. You really got to feel for him, but it's just one of the risks you take when building this deck. You understand it's popular. You understand people are going to try and maybe create an archetype that's really solid and powerful against it. That's why this deck was made. That's why this deck was brought to the Pokemon World Championships, to be dominant, to be strong against these archetypes that rely around Drizzile and Inteleon. Gonna advance to top 4. We've got 2 Japanese representatives locked in for top 4. We could be seeing it again every 6 years since 2004. A player